Thank you for returning to Honolulu. I have friends who do stand-up comedy and performers. I feel like I'm channeling their inquiries. So these are just more your process, if that's cool.
Cool.
Okay.
Sounds good.
One of the things that I'm curious about, Tom Papa, how much of your waking hours are dedicated to honing your material?
A lot of it. A lot of it. It's kind of never off. There's times when you're active with it where you're sitting down writing, editing, listening to what you did the night before, but the radar never goes off, I guess is a good way to put it. Like you're always listening. Like this morning I was on my Peloton on the bike and I dropped a water bottle. And my wife comes running in the room, and goes, "Are you okay? I thought you fell. I thought you fell off the bike." And I thought, well, that's a good area for a joke that we've reached the age where she would think I would fall off a stationary bike and be concerned about me. So, you know what I mean? Like I'm exercising, I'm on the bike, but still the comedy net is still out there to catch whatever swims by.
That's everything you do from right before you go to bed. So it must be tough going to bed because everything is swirling around. You're like, wait, voice memo, this. And so you're drifting off and drifting back into consciousness. How much of your waking hours are dedicated to what you're eating next?
Oh man, that all of it, more than comedy. Really. Like I was thinking about that last night because I'm going to perform with Gaffigan tonight
Mm.
and he's on Manjaro. And he said the biggest thing is that it stops your thoughts about food. You're not thinking about food. And I'm almost terrified about that because that's all I think about is what I've eaten, what am I going to eat next, what am I going to eat tonight. I'm constantly thinking about food and it's joyful. So the idea that you would take something that would strip that away,
Mhm.
I'm a little frightened of it.
It just dawned on me how folks, when you reach a level of success, which is always today, if you compare it to 10 years ago, it's like, but 10 years from now, how much of it is um, staying on that track? Do you ever give yourself a break? Or that's why you have a team. That's why you have your family saying, take that vacation. It's going to be here. But you're like, but 20 years ago, I mean, you allow yourself to just be like, it's okay. It'll still be here. Or are you still feeling that I got to keep going? You know,
Yeah, I think it's like a shark. Like you have to keep moving, you have to keep swimming. I don't think there's moments, but they literally are moments.
yeah.
It's not swaths of time where I'm kicked back and thinking, because like my wife and I are celebrating our 25th anniversary.
Happy
So
anniversary.
thank you. So after our show at the Hawaii Theater,
Mhm.
we're gonna go over to the Big Island and spend, 4 days relaxing. And I'm like, do I bring the computer? Do I bring the iPad, or can I just leave it and just not think and not work? Uh, so yeah, it's a struggle to stop for sure.
But it seems like it's always been part of your nature even before you got into stand-up comedy, which kind of flows into, are you naturally a go with the flow person? If yes, when did you, when did you let go of control in your life? But if the answer is no, talk about the people who helped shift your POV. But I'm thinking that it's like a yin and yang. It constantly like 60/40, 70/30.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. Uh, I was always pretty uh nervous and wanting control. Like if I would travel like in college, like I was like always anxious of like how are we gonna get there? How are we gonna get back? Like I always needed to kind of be in control and it's kind of weird. Yeah, you describe it perfectly because I have a very controlling about aspects, like certain aspects, and then other aspects very go with the flow. Like I really, as much as I work hard on my career and stuff like that, I don't worry about the money of it. I don't worry about where it's gonna be successful or not successful. I truly can let that go, like the bigger things. But then in the day to day, that stuff, I do tend to be a little more controlling.
Can you retell the joke that you heard that made you want to step on stage and do stand up? Or the person or events? Oh, I could totally do that.
I was always funny as a kid, and like around seventh grade, I realized it was a job, that it was a grown-up job.
Hmm.
So from that point on, I was like, okay, so that's where I'm headed.
Hmm.
At like seventh grade, I was like, okay, I don't have to work if I can still be funny. But there was one time I was in college and went to my cousin's wedding, and I was at his rehearsal dinner. And you know, at those things, people get up and they all start giving little speeches about the bride and the groom. And I stood up and I told a joke from Larry Miller, the comedian Larry Miller. And I used it for my cousin because my cousin was a good-looking guy and he was settling down. And I said, and this was Larry Miller's joke. I said, it's got to be hard for him because women are attracted to Jimmy like cheap metal to a magnet. And that was his line, and I delivered it just like he would, and the room all laughed. And that was like the first time I saw the power of a scripted joke being delivered naturally that would have that effect. And that really was like I was heading in that direction, but I remember that moment because it was, ah, this is the key. This is the key. Write a great joke and then deliver it. And then I really just started writing. That's when I started writing and heading to the stage.
That's cool that you understood that the material, like borrowing it and like citing the source. I understand that, the more conversations you have, you hang out with other performers, that osmosis happens. Sometimes there is that intentional, you're sharing material, just testing it out. And sometimes you're having a conversation and it's like somebody's like, "Are you using that?" It's like, "No, I'm opening my heart to you." So it's like,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah, that's why it's better to hang out with people who aren't comedians sometimes.
we're not yet. They're not comedians yet. That always
Right.
seems to be on the road. I don't know if you have time to watch shows. Severance.
Yeah.
Okay, so the innie and the outie, and I was when I was writing up questions to talk story with you, just compare what I imagine performance could be like for stand-up, uh the innie and the outie version, same body, though Tom Papa on stage, Tom Papa this kind of conversation kind of thing versus I mean it's just like real life, but because you're a public personality, there's this expectation for fans to just really break that wall and just like, you know, come up to you and talk with you, even though you're like, I'm off. How has it shifted since your early years of, yeah, connecting with the fans and then this gradual, at least for you, because people aren't with you the whole time to 2025, where you're like, please respect my privacy? Or are you like an open book? You're like, yeah, come on by.
Yeah, I'm pretty open. I think as far as the severance analogy, I've kind of meshed the two together. And
Congratulations.
yeah, which is really kind of the key, I think, for stand-up is when you can get as comfortable on stage as we are right now,
Mhm.
and that it's not really changing, and it's a little heightened, but it's very, very, very close. So it's kind of nice because I could just be myself all the time and interacting with the fans from the stage or even if they're not fans, just somebody at the store. There's no shift. It's not like I'm on and off. I'm
Mhm.
just me.
When you were finding your voice as a stand-up comedian, while you've
Hmm.
essentially always been Tom Papa and you just kind of fleshed it out where you have this really solid, large body of work that you can draw upon and, you can pick up any volume, you can go to any special, and it's, it's still, what do they call it? The kids say it still slaps, you know. You
Uh-huh.
know. But was there different trends that were happening in stand-up comedy through the decades where you're like, oh, am I supposed to be doing that? Or was it very easy for you to be like, not stand firm, but you were easy to just kind of maybe try out
Yeah,
different.
in the beginning, you're desperate and you're scared, so you're trying kind of everything. So
Mhm.
I would try something a little dirtier or a little political or whatever, but it was never really my nature. It's kind of back to the becoming the same person on stage as off. You get to a point where you're just being honest and talking about your own life and what you really want to talk about, not necessarily what you think is going to work
Mhm.
that night in front of that audience. So it really wasn't a conscious decision of let's not be dirty or let's not talk about politics. It
Mhm.
really wasn't my thing, but I was doing it early on because there was you could see like if I was dirty at this late night show, it could possibly work. But the more you just become yourself and find your voice, then whatever you truly want to talk about will come out. And that stuff doesn't really enter into it.
Tom Papa, Grateful Bread tour. I hear Grateful Bread at Hawaii Theater Saturday, March 29th. Tickets on
Yes,
sale
this
at the
Saturday.
box office, hawaiitheater.com. With the Grateful Bread, does that kind of lend to a kind of jam session where it will go longer than allowed, time allots?
Yeah, there's definitely a loose part to it for sure. I love talking to the audience and
Mm,
kind of getting that ebb and flow, and there's definitely that element to it. So I guess you could say that's a little deadish.
very cool. I thank you for your time. I know you have to bounce out, so
Great. Well, this was really nice.
this is really cool. Thank you so much, and we'll see you on Saturday.
All right, that sounds great. Come say hello.